Hello everybody, today I will be showing you how I did some of the more advanced techniques and some of the cutscenes for my CSGO IRL video. If you'd like to know more of the basics of how I did it, watch my other breakdown by clicking on the button in the top right. The techniques I used then are still the ones I use now. The first advanced technique we'll be covering is the spotted light source. Because the environment I filmed in had a lot of trees, the lighting was very spotted, so I had to replicate that in 3D. The way I did this was by creating an area light and making it use the original clip as a filter of sorts. I then adjusted the position, scale, and rotation to make it act more of a sun and increase the contrast and lower the saturation to create the spotted look. It worked well on some of the clips and not so well on others, but I felt forced to use the correct clip for each so that the lighting would match better. Another technique I used was faking lighting using multiple player renders. In this clip, I render out the CT with and without front lights to simulate natural light coming in from the car door. I then offset the rotoscope chairs inwards towards the CT and used them as masks for the darker render of the CT. I then added a simple linear wipe on the legs to add the darkened version there, as the light would have been blocked by the chair in the front and the dog, which is actually my dog. I also put a lot of consideration into how I can make the CT digitally look like they're a part of the environment. I added levels, curves, and magic bullet looks to try to achieve that low quality sort of overexposed look that my phone had while recording. I also used S-Mosaic at a very high pixel frequency to give it a slightly pixelated look. However, the upscaling process would smooth it out and make the CT look more integrated into the environment without those super clean edges. I lastly noticed that the grain in the original video had an interesting quality. It wasn't exactly monochrome, but it would flicker between a brighter and darker hue of the color it should normally be. Since I didn't know and didn't really bother to learn how to replicate that, I applied 3 different renoisers. One of these was monochrome and applied much more to the shadows and less to the highlights, while another was colored noise that was a little stronger and applied more to the midtones and highlights. The last one applied to the video as a whole as opposed to the first 2 which only applied to the CT and was colored. I have 4 cut shots that I originally really wanted to use. I really loved the idea of the scene where I would have the CT running up this massive rock behind my brother and then 360 no-scoping the camera and missing. This would have been very funny, but none of the maps I was using to record HDR on had a similar type of long ramp. In the future, I would probably create my own map in Hammer and set the default player model to the one I used here for consistency. The introduction shot was one I actually meant to use where the CT would be massive and behind the mountains, every step thundering the ground. But as I continued with the other shots, I realized I want to keep them more like a friend than a stranger or a meme, and that meant keeping them close and having them do funny actions. This idea didn't really fit in the theme in my opinion. My original idea with this shot was to have it be cut throughout the video, like I did with the long jump one. I had the CT slowly accelerate to the point where he would have a huge distortion area behind him, and maybe even whip up some sort of tornado. It had a lot of potential. Unfortunately, this shot had a very hard time being tracked, and I couldn't find any locations in game on the maps that was used that matched this sort of teardrop shape closely enough. I meant to use this last shot as the ending scene, right after the CT was chilling in the car to signify we were leaving and the camping trip was over. Unfortunately, this camera was super shaky as I was holding it against the dashboard and the stabilization didn't fix it enough. Overall, I had a lot of fun making this video, even if it did take a little while, and I hope you enjoyed listening to my perspective on it. As always, have a great day.